This is amazing. There are parents, yes, parents, and not caregivers, as teachers would like to call them, parents who are now pushing back at American colleges for promoting what is referred to as DEI. Oh, look who's coming in. Oh, wait a moment. There she is, muted, but looking good. Katherine.
Sorry, we're trying a new camera and new lighting in here, and it's not quite going as planned. So
no, it's fine. You're doing fine. You're here. That's number one. You look good. That's number two. And the lighting, I can see you. We're Jake. Okay.
I'm better than Pam's lighting right now.
Well, no, well, see, Pam's lighting is deliberately meant to be semi-mysterious.
Moody, dark and moody, yes.
Moody.
Well, I'm thinking more emotive. Okay?
There you go.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And because
now you're starting to speak millennial on me, and I don't know if I can handle it.
Well, I thought that's where you wanted me to go, so I had to give it a shot. But yeah, it's just charismatic. And of course, with Pam, we're always talking about sensitive.
Oh yeah, that's me.
There you go. That's his middle name, Sensitive. All right. Well, welcome to the program. We're going to do a little Wack-a-doodle news, and then I let everybody know we're going to get into the nice puppy.
It's an American flag too.
I love it. We're going to get into the resolution of your case in Michigan, and you can take your time going through it and basically in educating us into the greatness of some of our court systems. How's that?
There was nothing great, so I don't want to disappoint people right from the get-go. But
well, I was being a little sarcastic, but okay, let's go. First issue. There are parents, and as I started out, apparently these are parents as opposed to what teachers would like to call them as caregivers, and they're pushing back on American colleges promoting what's called DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And these are conditions that are being put onto the educators as related to being able to be tenured or being promoted. It's like, really? So knowing your subject isn't important. Just being able to go DEI is what's really important. I just find that incredibly troubling because, and some of the pushback that comes out of this is that in this article, it said DEI advocates are said to focus not on equal opportunity, which is I'm all about, but on the ideology of equal outcomes or equity. Well, there's only one way to get equal outcomes. It has to be manufactured. And I'm thinking, and I usually relate this to sports, and then I like you to share, Katherine. I want, there's two ways to lead in my book. You can lead by edict or you can lead by example. And I'm thinking and I'm not really picking on them, but I'm going to use them as an example. I want the NBA to lead by example. They're going to mandate, they're going to mandate that all the teams in the league now have to be DEI. And part of that is the team roster must match the percentages of different folks within their community or city. That's the team they have to field. Not the best, biggest, fastest, strongest, because we need diversity on the basketball court. Now, do you think many people are going to pay $200 to get a courtside seat?
The sad thing is, I can't but help myself here thinking about that, but I could be wrong about this, but I think that when it comes to diversity and, whatnot, that there's seems to me that there's naturally been a trend, especially like in the NBA, that there are certain ethnicities and, gender that have naturally a little bit more athleticism in certain respects. And so you have people who are, I guess, rising to the top of the sports world because of that athleticism. But by and large, a lot of, wasn't there a movie with Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes? Was it White Men Can't Jump or something?
Yeah.
That kind of goes to the epitome of it, right? That, there are some good, Larry Bird and, I'm old, so I'm going to stop listing players because I'm going to list players that millennials would have no clue about. But anyway, there's players that make it, obviously, but by and large, okay, so again, thinking of people that I grew up with, Shaq and Penny Hardaway and, Michael Jordan and, anyway, those are you start taking a community, let's say Orlando. Okay. So I grew up in Orlando. And so I was listing people that played for the Magic when I lived here, Horace Grant and whatnot. So anyway, I don't know, I haven't looked at it recently, but I would venture to guess that the population may very well be equally split between, it depends on how specific we're getting, but Caucasians and Black Americans and Hispanic descent. And so, again, it depends on how specific or how broken down this is. But, if you want to say city of Orlando is a third, generally speaking, a third of each of those greater populations, the team demographics are going to have to change drastically, and it's going to directly impact certain segments of the minority classes that have risen to the top in the NBA and other, sports worlds, so to speak, because of their natural gifts and talents and athleticism. So it just strikes me that we're actually going to end up punishing some of the very groups of people that, in theory, the programs are trying to support. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
That would be the point. So it's no longer the best wins, the best gets it. And 2 more points, then we'll move on. Imagine this: you are a young woman, you are training your guts out for the 100 meters, and you're very successful nationally.
800 meters I would do, but not the 100. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, fine.
I was in track and field in high school. That's
okay. Well, then I'm going to do the 100 because it's a shorter race. Here you go. And you're training and you're training and you're training. And by the way, I do understand that the 800 meters is the longest sprint in the world. I got that. Yeah. And then you find out there's new rules. And the new rule is that everyone finishes at the same time. That way we have no losers. Everybody gets the ribbon, gold medal. So it doesn't matter if you're winning by 3 seconds. You're going to be held back until everybody comes together and you cross the line at the same. Is anybody going to work hard for that? No, no one's going to work hard. Is anybody going to care? No. And finally, we're going to take DEI and we're going to move it into the symphony. Okay? It's not about talent anymore. It's about diversity and inclusion. There's a reason why every person is sitting in a chair in a symphony. They earned it. And they come from all different backgrounds. But if you now have to divide the symphony, a sports team up by certain superficial standards, it ain't going to be the same. And God forbid, should they take that into medical school. Anyway, next one. You
Wait,
might
they
like.
didn't already take it into medical? I thought that's how we got people like Fauci and Deborah Birx and, oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, but see, they're not your surgeon. So we're okay. You may like this, and this is taking place in Georgia, close to you. This group of women, they refer themselves as mama bears, which I love, and they're fighting back against school boards. What happened is one woman, Allison Hare, she took the mic at a school board meeting back in February and started reading an excerpt from a book she found in her child's school library. She was abruptly cut off because apparently, as she's reading from a book that her child's school library has, she is considered to be reading from a sexually explicit book. Gets cut off. Then next month, she shows up again, does the same thing. And she's cut off again and banned from future meetings because the board has a policy of prohibiting profane, rude, defamatory remarks and personal attacks. This is from a child's book from a school library. So she and another woman, Cindy Martin, formed Mama Bears of Forsyth County in Georgia. And they've begun a lawsuit.
Good.
Not because they got cut off, but because their First Amendment rights were attacked. They didn't get to speak. And to me, if something is so profane, just to use one word, that you can't say this in public at a school board meeting, why is it in a book in the school's law?
And that was the point, right? I mean,
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah. And so these ladies, AKA the Mama Bears, they formed the group, and the other lady who's helping, her name is, where is it? Cindy Martin. They're saying, we've spontaneously formed a group. We're continuing to discover explicit books in the schools, and we will not back down. So to me, when the school system has gone this rogue, that the children can read this in the library, the children can read this in the classroom, the children can take this home and read it in their bedroom, but a mother can't say the words at a meeting. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm a mother.
Yes.
And there's some really good grassroots groups and just general freedom activists all across the state of Michigan that have been regularly posting this kind of stuff, that have been out there in their children's schools and looking and finding these ridiculous books that shouldn't be in a public library, let alone in an elementary school library. And, there's some really ticked off mama bears all over who are stepping up and, fighting against this stuff. A friend of mine, Rachel Atwood, is, I'm trying to think of how she said it, but anyway, basically it's, and there's been memes shared, especially since what happened in Canada earlier this year, that it's really the mothers and the truckers that are trying to save our freedom. And I think by and large, that is largely who's standing up. It's stay-at-home moms. It's, moms who work full-time. It's grandmas whose kids are grown and now they have little grandchildren that they care for. It's, all these people that weren't really the driving force behind political change in many respects in decades past. But all of a sudden now, more than ever, it's a bunch of angry moms who are seeing the craziness and realizing, and probably it's a combination of all these different things going on in our country. But I think that we've been seeing how horribly wrong the government does get it on every level, that we're starting to go, wait a minute. And we're not starting with the assumption that, well, if the school board did it, or if it's in a school library, it's got to be okay, or what, you know what I mean? We're starting with the assumption, well, if the government's involved, it's probably messed up. And then we're going from there. And, this really, it kind of ties in with what some of the Florida legislation has been, that do not say, don't say gay bill, which isn't about that. And some of the other companion bills that they had, some bills that were passed in Florida. Again, you're talking about Georgia, but, in Florida recently, about basically like different books that are actually used as core curriculum, and how certain districts were trying to get certain texts approved that were, the critical race theory and the diversity, or even had some of the inappropriate sexual topics or whatever. And, local districts were like, rubber stamping, oh yeah, this is great material. And these parents are like, I don't think so. And so there's different layers and restrictions where these parents can bring the fight basically up to the state level and try to get the state to put a stop to the ridiculousness. So anyway, there's different things that people can do all over, but I'm proud to be one of these fierce mama bears. It's just, like, yeah, right. It's moms that are going to fix this country. So
as you may know, I'm really comfortable that we've got mama bears out there. A year ago, I spoke at the Red Pill Expo in Rapid City, and my topic was about 5 women of the American Revolution. Okay, these women are from the 1770s, early 1780s. They had the absolute perfect excuse to do nothing. It's the 1770s, 1780s. I'm a woman. We don't do this. They said, bite me. And they literally put their lives on the line, each one of them, to do something specific. And okay, we all know, and I'm not taking anything away from, we all know Betsy Ross. Okay, but she's known for her needlepoint. We all know about Abigail Adams. We know about Dolly Madison. But you know about Sybil Ludington? Do you know about Deborah Sampson? No. These women are just amazing. And I'll tell people who are listening, if you care to listen to my 30-minute presentation, you can go to my website, FedEd, FEDED.us. Up at the top, there's a tab for the Republic shows. Click on that. Up will pop a link to the 30-minute video. I really like your new phrase, and I'm going to credit you with this phrase, Catherine. Mother truckers. I like it. I really like it. And the other thing and one of the reasons I find all this so interesting is, as a forensic accountant, I've started with a few people, some in Michigan, some in the state of Washington, and we're doing what I call MARs, Municipal Accounting Review. If you really want to know what's going on, and you could do this for a city, a town, whatever, but we're starting with school districts. If you really want to know what's going on, you have to look not at their budgets, not at any kind of reports. You get the banking, the bank statements, the deposit information, credit memos, debit memos, wires in, wires out. And I have my own way. It's been very successful in court activity of organizing this information, which allows easy summarization. And originally, I wanted to know where the money was spent. Now I'm beginning to understand, I want to know where the money's coming from also, because that way you can find out if the money coming in is coming with strings. And then you can go find out who's pulling the strings, who are getting all this absolutely, I find it just inappropriate information. Okay, you want to put this in an adult bookshop? Have at it. I don't care. This doesn't belong in a child's library. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. We'll continue on, and just two more, and then we're going to get into the heavy. I did this one because this is actually out of San Diego. We have an opinion piece from an epidemiologist. This was in the San Diego Union. This man has a PhD, an MA, Johns Hopkins, Harvard, heavy credentials. Well, just recently, our illustrious San Diego Unified School District adopted a new mask mandate for the last 2 weeks of summer school, and it was triggered by the prevalence of COVID-19 infections in the county. And my comment is, number one, infections don't equal death. And infections don't even tell you how serious it is. So this scientist, this epidemiologist decided to weigh in. And I'll just give you the upshot without getting too heavy into it. He writes about that in 2011, obviously pre-pandemic, they did some studies, random studies in 14 hospitals in Hanoi. And they found that there were higher rates of respiratory illness with the people wearing the mask than the control group. Okay. And the other thing that isn't being tracked is if you have a community that is just covering their face, that's one thing. Which you need to bring into the mix is, well, how many of the people are working from home? How many of the people are quote unquote social distancing or doing other things in addition to or other than just covering their face? But the bottom line is they did a trial in Denmark called Dan the Mask, and they did one in Bangladesh. And basically they showed reusable cloth masks did not reduce infections. So when I see this, and I see, I'm out driving and I see the person in a car all by themselves, the windows rolled up, and they got their face covered. I'm thinking, what are you protecting yourself from? What fear is overcoming your common sense? Any thoughts on this topic?
Oh, plenty. But I'll just say, even in Florida, where we generally get to exercise a few more of our God-given constitutionally protected liberties without as much government interference. Within a mile of my home down here, I was coming home yesterday or the day before, and I was on this little back street because there's, it's summer and driving through the heart of the world's most famous beach area, Daytona. It tends to be a little, lots of traffic and lots of people walking around. So anyway, I'm on the other side of the area, and it's just people that live around here that drive there. It's there's no tourists that drive on that. It's Halifax is the name of the road. And anyway, so I'm waiting at this light, and the one car that's going to turn in front of me left, because it's, again, not a very trafficked area. I think I was on the phone with my husband on, Bluetooth, and I'm watching this car drive right in front of me. And I just laughed to myself, and I said to my husband, "Oh, there's another Democrat sighting." Windows rolled up, face mask on, no one else in the car. I mean, Dr. Martin Dubrovik is a friend of mine. I actually stumbled across him by starting to do my own research in March of 2020 as things were unfolding. And he was actually cited in some, nationwide resources that came up. And then lo and behold, there he was in Cadillac, Michigan. And I had the chance to meet him early on in 2020 in person. And he and I were, had the opportunity to exchange a ton of ideas, as well as talk about the science and the medicine and, the epidemiology and everything else that goes into all this. And a lot of people that are on watching this right now, maybe on the chat. I was going to try to see if anybody says anything, but another good friend of mine is Kristen Megan Kelly. She's she's from Michigan, but she travels all around the country with Tammy Clark from Stand Up Michigan. And that's the jam, is talking about the proper use of masks and the contamination of wearing them, incorrectly, and how they're supposed to be fitted. And actually, Kristen Megan was, for the VA, she's a veteran, and one of her jobs was she's worked with OSHA. She's worked with, the VA on the proper use and fittings of PPE. And I mean, so this is what they do. So, and then that friend I mentioned earlier, Rachel Atwood, just one of those mama bears who loves freedom and, everything related to freedom. She's also, and my friend Maya Hahn, who's actually just recently moved down here to Florida, but was also in West Michigan, and, a grassroots leader and a medical, a bit of a medical expert. And anyway, all these great people, and they're all moms, actually. So mama bear thing, but, just bring all this expertise. So these are conversations that we've been having on a regular basis in our, close friend groups, as well as just, our bigger friend circles and at grassroots events, literally nonstop since March of 2020. And certainly things that we continue to hear about since. So yeah, it's absurd to me. What I find funny, and I wish I had saved it, but I ended up deleting it because I just have too many. But last night, usually Friday nights, my husband and I, and I'm on, if my son is here, Alex, anyway, we go to our favorite local pizza joint, and they have good lemon pepper chicken wings and subs and burgers and all kinds of stuff. But it's kind of really close to the heart of all the craziness with Daytona Beach. But anyway, usually it's Friday night. Didn't make it Friday night this week, went last night. And we're sitting there and waiting for our food. And I just happened to check my, my drop-down notifications, and I saw there was an email from the Epoch Times, the only news I let send me anything. And it was, forget however the headline read, it was basically something like President Biden tests positive again and has to go back into isolation. And then his Dr. Kevin something, whatever, was saying I forget the phrase, it was priceless. But basically it's like an exceedingly rare thing that you would get it twice, especially after being vaccinated and all that. And I was just really rare, huh? Yeah. Well, you guys aren't able to hide your medical misinformation very well anymore. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. But then again, who really pays attention to Weekend at Bernie's running the country anyway? So.
Thank you for all that. First of all, I really liked about my term creator given. You said constitutionally protected rights. I like that because it needs to be understood. The Constitution, as great of a document it doesn't give us our rights. It acknowledges them. It acknowledges the source and is designed to protect them. So I really like that. The first person you mentioned, Dr. Martin, what's his last name?
Oh, Dr. Martin Dubrovik. Okay.
We'll have to talk more about these folks. Thank you so much. I saw a blast that the president now tested after days of being not positive, then went negative, and then positive again. And okay, I am trying to understand because I'm really picky with words. I get really picky with words, not to be a pain, but because words can be misused and misdirect people. So I am struggling now with the concept of safe and effective. I thought I knew what those words mean. And apparently I'm way off on the word effective. I mean, if you get...
And safe. I mean, truly, obviously, the way that the government has restructured what definitions of literally anything, vaccine or recession or, anyway, you don't know what anything means anymore. You certainly don't know what safe or effective means, because what you're thinking of implies a sense of common sense and reason and actual like medical support perhaps at times, but
Right. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. I'm going to try to, let's talk about this. Geez, what happened?
While you're searching for something on there, I saw a comment in the chat a little bit ago.
Okay,
and
can you can hear me now?
Oh yeah, we could hear you the whole time.
Okay, I don't know.
Oh no, now we can't hear you.
What's going on?
Can you hear me? I can hear you clicking.
What's that?
Oh yeah, I can hear you again.
Yeah, okay, I can hear you. I know my microphone's working, and I don't know what's going on with this. Okay. Anyway, what did the chat say?
Yeah, there was a comment about, you were mentioning, I think it was when it comes to reading the children's school library book in that meeting and having the First Amendment issue. Anyway, there's a comment that says, then there's the 1964 SCOTUS ruling, New York Times v. Sullivan, free speech, no matter how offensive. And the only thing that comes to my mind is just that this is, and there might be some really great stuff in there, and this is from Dynamex, but there might be some really great stuff in that opinion. But the problem is it's an opinion, and way too many freedom lovers focus on court decisions and court precedent or case precedent, and dare I say, case law. For those just listening, those were air quotes, because judges and literally every single person in the judicial system they're prohibited from making law, because that's a legislative branch thing. So anyway, I'm trying to mix humor and sarcasm and truth all in one, and I think it's not coming out right. But
no, it is. It comes out perfect. It comes out perfect.
It makes me sad though when you have some really smart, I almost said liberal loving, liberty loving, freedom loving, constitution loving people that, hammer at times a lot on some of those concepts, such as, there's this court case and that court case. Yeah, some of the stuff might be really great in there, Marbury versus Madison or whatever, right? But what boils down is I don't ever like to reference cases unless I'm throwing it back in the faces of some liberals on a point. Or if I'm arguing oral argument in a court, I may have to reference some case precedent because I need to speak their language. Sometimes you talk too much straight Constitution and they get really confused. But
these are graduates of law school, right?
Yeah, usually they're adjunct professors, if not full-time professors at times of law school. So yeah,
crazy.
Judges, justices, but just anybody listening, even if you're only tuning in for like 30 seconds right now, please remember case law is not a thing, and case precedent never overrides, actual law. And the supreme law of the land is the Constitution. And so that means no unconstitutional law, statute at the state or federal or even local level can exist, because it only can exist. It's only, like valid and all that if it's, if it coincides and gets along with all the restrictions placed on government and all the protections provided for our personal freedoms that are found in the U.S. and state constitutions. So anyway, that's a soapbox, but.
Oh, I love it. You brought up one of my favorite cases as a non-law student. And my understanding, this is one of the first cases that is presented to law students in law school, Marbury versus Madison. Is that correct? Is that one of the first cases?
I graduated just, like a few years ago. Actually, no, it was a very long time ago, and I don't remember the order of the cases that we studied.
Well, I've heard a lot of lawyers talk about Marbury versus Madison and, the power it gives the Supreme Court, and that this case was decided during Jefferson's presidency. And I've studied a little bit. And then when I talk to my lawyer friends, I start asking them questions, and they don't like my questions. Just for people to know real quick, Marbury was a guy who, right at the end of John Adams' presidency, John Adams went rogue, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm sure this affected the friendship, absolutely, of Adams and Jefferson. And he decided to appoint a bunch of people to judgeships and justices of the peace. And the Secretary of the State was required to get those papers to the people so they could get their job. Well, one guy who didn't get his papers is Marbury. So he sued, and it finally got kicked up to the Supreme Court. And Madison is James Madison. That guy who was there for the entire Constitutional Convention and probably wrote a few things on the Constitution. That guy. He's the Secretary of State of Thomas Jefferson. Well, the court decides in the favor of Marbury that he should have gotten his papers, should become the justice of the peace, whatever. But at least the court admitted it has no enforcement power. That's nice. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court at the time was a John Adams appointee, John Marshall. Is there any problem with this case? And, and I ask people, and they go, no, everything seemed right. Everything really. You know who John Marshall was before he was Chief Justice of the Supreme Court? He was John Adams, Secretary of State. Tell me this is not a conflict of interest case. Then they stopped looking at me. John Marshall should have excused himself, and he didn't. So that's my rendering of Marbury versus Madison. I love it. This is the last one, and this is going to lead us into, I hope you don't mind, the Constitution, Catherine. Bear with me.
Fine. I mean, that's like other things, American, Labrador retrievers and American flags and other things that for anybody listening, not watching, that my shirt actually has basically a picture of my dog, but in red, white, and blue format because it's also the American flag. So
it's beautiful. Anyway, this was a recent, and I don't know if I'll be able to pull up the audio, so I'm just going to read it. This was from a show on MSNBC called The 11th Hour. And the woman who runs it is Stephanie, I think it's Rule. Anyway, she had on her show for a couple of minutes Adrian Fontes, and we're getting his take on the Second Amendment. He is also a candidate for Arizona's Secretary of State, and they called him in the episode a former Marine. Well, I know there's only two kinds of Marines, active and retired. There's no former, there's no ex. So when they use those words before Marine, they got it wrong, but he didn't correct them. And this is what Stephanie opened with regarding, she wanted Adrian to dismantle, are you ready? Dismantle the right wing's Second Amendment lies regarding the right to bear arms. And I thought, oh, I got to listen to this one. And fortunately, the audio came with subtitles, so I typed basically most of what he said. And I'd like to go through this with you because even I found there was problems with what he said. He said that, he was talking about the word militia in the whole context of the Constitution. And he says, the way he's reading it, that means I can be a militia by myself. No, that's not what it means. And then he blew off well-regulated that it can mean whatever you want it to mean. Well, if you ask George Mason what militia means, he hung around the guys at the Constitution Convention. Militia is basically all the people, except for a few political officers. Regulated means put in good order. It doesn't mean a bunch of regulation. Any thoughts on that so far? And then we're going to get into Article 1, Section 8.
Oh, no,
Okay.
We're almost half in, and I've already used up, I think, half of my word count. So
No. You get to talk as much you want. No worries on mine. I just want to make sure you have plenty of time to talk on your case. But since this is constitutional, I really want your thoughts. He brought up Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15, but he didn't read it all. And he said, Congress shall have the power to call forth the militia, execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. Well, yeah, but they only get to call up part of the militia, not all of it. And he doesn't put this in context, which, remember, Adrian, is that his name? Forgot. Yeah. Who created the Constitution? Who created the federal government? The states. And who do the militias belong to? The states. And the states are granting this power to the federal government for one reason at that time. This is my understanding. The federal government wasn't allowed a standing army. It has a standing navy, but no army. He goes on to say, the militia in the context of our Constitution is enforcing the laws of the Union. They, being the militia, work for the government, not against some tyrannical fantasy government that you guys are fetishizing against. Is he showing a little bias here?
there's words I haven't even heard of quite in that context, so I'm just gonna.
Okay. Anyway, the upshot of this is that the militias belong to the states. They're state militias. They're not federal government. And they can call up part of them, not all of them. But if you look at Article 1, Section 8, Clause 16, you'll see who has the power over the militias, and it's the states. So let's get to the fun part. Your story. Now, Catherine's been on before, and this was before her case was finally heard in Michigan. So if you don't mind, Catherine, take some time and tell everybody what your case was about, because you were bad.
Yeah, I generally do like being able to petition my government for a redress of grievances.
Is there any constitutional authority for that?
No, I just like to be able to speak freely, to be able to assemble peacefully, to enjoy due process of law, not have any of my life, liberty, or property taken away unnecessarily or without that due process of law. There's just quite a few things that I like, but no, there's obviously no constitutional basis for my preferences there.
Unless you, of course, you go to the first 10 amendments.
Well, um, so, very quickly, I guess, in 2020, in case those of you who are, were living under a rock in 2020, the Michigan governor decided that she was empress and that she could shut down the entire state and literally everything, and criminalize literally leaving your house. She thought she could make an arrestable offense. And so did several law enforcement agencies, which is really interesting because it's not a law. But anyway, so in order to combat all the stupidity of, the Democrat governor in charge doing all these things and all of her alphabet soup administrative agencies and the law enforcement agencies that were going along with this, and of course the prosecuting attorney's offices and city attorney's offices, et cetera, attorney general's office, that were prosecuting these offenses, as well as the spineless at best and inherently corrupt, more likely, Republican state legislators who furthered this garbage and went along with it, among many other problematic things happening in all levels and branches of government in the state of Michigan and, of course, the entire country. I drafted a constitutional amendment petition that would clear up this alleged ambiguity about our freedoms and the source of those freedoms, the extent, and the kinds of things government is actually allowed to do. And what happens if a government official goes outside of those bounds and, giving some actual teeth to those situations, so that a government official actually fears real consequences for when they violate their oath of office and violate some term of the Constitution. And it provided standing, something that is a big tool of procedural nonsense that often keeps out the good guys in trying to hold government officials accountable. But it provided standing so that any Michigan resident, U.S. citizen could, bring forth these issues and get some real accountability. So this constitutional amendment was truly awesome, not because I wrote it, but actually because it was really from him. And I just got the pleasure of being the one whose fingers wore out typing the whole thing and, making some very small edits from the first version, which is remarkable in and of itself because, well, hey, it wasn't mine, it was God's. But anyway, so we were trying to get just shy of 500,000 signatures in order to get it on the ballot. And we had thousands of volunteers all over the whole state of Michigan collecting these signatures. And I was the lead attorney. I was the drafter, but I was the lead attorney for the Restore Freedom Initiative, this constitutional amendment petition. And so I let all petition circulators know, like, hey, ahead of time, here's some training, here's some tidbits of legal knowledge, here's some, thoughts about what your rights are, what your responsibilities are, basically, what are the rules and regulations of how to do this, right? Because yes, we have our rights, but we need to make sure we're not violating the rights of others, such as the voters, in how we're exercising our rights. And so at any rate, kind of laid that all out, did some training videos, did some Q&A, had some little cheat sheets for petition circulators to bring with them to the polls, and then let them know, hey, if you have some really serious situations, call our number and I will, help out. I will make phone calls, or I will just steer you in the right direction, or tell you what law to bring up with law enforcement official or whatever. And there were several things that I had sorted through that morning. And then I got this one call that these two women who were circulating the Restore Freedom Initiative petition in Layton Township, Allegan County, Michigan, were on the way backside of the, a township that had, I want to say it was like 3,300 registered voters total. But this huge space in the middle of nowhere, right? So it's like this, I mean, you can hardly find it. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. There's not a store you can really walk to within, another business that you can really walk to within distance out of this building where voting was happening. But anyway, it had, acreage and grass and a huge parking lot, and they chosen to kind of back up on the far side of the parking lot, and not even on the pavement anymore. They were on the grass, and they had some United States flags, and they had some, sign petition here, Restore Freedom Initiative, and it was all like right around their vehicle, much less than you would see at any average tailgate celebration, I guarantee you. So, and then just a little folding table right in front of them, and they had the petition there, and, some information and whatever. So anyway, the township clerk decided to misread a township resolution, not even an ordinance, that she claimed said she could decide who could be there on election day and who couldn't. And she decided they were not allowed to be there on election day at all. And they could not collect signatures. And it was an awful thing for them to be there. And they had to go right now. And the sheriff's deputy showed up and said, well, you heard her, if you don't leave right now, then you're going to be arrested for trespass. And I tried to talk to him over the phone and reason with him. And long story short, he was not quite able to be reasonable and rational over the phone. So I showed up in person just to talk to him, just as the lead attorney for this petition and for these circulators in this moment. And he said he'd be there waiting for me so I could have the law printed out. We could talk about it, whatever. And I get there, he refuses to talk about the law, the Constitution, this township resolution, like nothing. Doesn't want to talk about any of it. The clerk doesn't want to talk about any of it. He decides that instead he's going to bring two other grown men, deputies. So the three of them then, after just a few minutes, and this is all on video, you can go to my website, restorefreedomkh.com.
Say that again.
Restore Freedom KH, K as in Catherine, H as in Henry, restorefreedomkh.com. If you go there, the very front page or homepage of my website, if you scroll down, you'll see is some information, including the video of the arrest from different camera angles, because I was live streaming and then others started live streaming. And so you see the situation, how I'm repeatedly trying to tell him that he does not have the authority to arrest them for criminal trespassing, how he is participating in abusive process and malicious prosecution. And he tries to say, well, the prosecutor said herself that we could do this. She's on board. And I'm saying, well, then I thought it was a dude. I didn't know it was a woman. So I just said, well, he's on the hook too, but that doesn't mean anything for you. You're going to be responsible for this. And so at any rate, they then turn their attention then really to me and decide that they're going to violently arrest me, leaving bruises, contusions, cuts. I was bleeding. I'd been threatened that my 6-year-old child who was with me and witnessing the whole thing was going to be taken by CPS, and they weren't letting me call my husband to come and take her, or they wouldn't let any of the adults that I knew personally on scene. They wouldn't let anybody take care of her. They were just going to have the government come and take her away, put her in the system, a system which by the way, I've been the attorney for children in abuse and neglect cases in 2 different states for many, many years. I know how the system works, and it's stupid and it's broken. So I was afraid, because they're already violating the law. They're going to tow my car illegally. They're going to do a whole bunch of other things. And of course, they're telling me this after they had already illegally, physically, violently arrested me and were denying me a whole bunch of other rights. Speaking of rights, I was never read my rights, just kind of a funny side note.
Let me interrupt for a second. This is a great story. So in your arrest, were you ever introduced to the ground?
Thankfully for their lives, no, I was not.
What were you introduced to? other than their fists or their hands or their arms?
I was forcibly shoved and pulled from both directions. I had deputies shoving me, and then on the other side of the vehicle, pulling me through into the first deputy's SUV. And you know how on TV, in every single cop show you've ever seen, or even just a movie where there's an arrest, you always see the officers putting their hand over the head of the suspect and saying, okay, you know, like, watch your head, because they don't want to be accused of harming the individual, or sometimes they actually care and they don't want to actually harm the individual by having their head smashed on the car or whatever. You can hear me screaming, just let me sit down, because they were refusing to let me sit. They were literally trying to shove me and stuff me like I was the tree in the Grinch trying to go up the dang chimney. And they were literally trying to shove me and stuff me in there, with the other deputy coming around the backside to like yank me through. Meanwhile, I'm already handcuffed with handcuffs that were not double locked. So they kept tightening and were causing excruciating pain all on their own. And this is all while I'm screaming, my child's in the car, and I'm screaming for help at this point, because these guys clearly can't be actually law enforcement officers. But anyway, yeah, they're stuffing me in there, and I'm asking them to, like, could you know, because they're not covering my head. They're just physically trying to harm me as many ways as possible in the least amount of, like, the most money you can spend in the supermarket, and the supermarket spree, or whatever that store was called in the 90s. Yeah, this is how many types of physical injuries and constitutional rights violations can you do in less than 5 minutes? That's what they were going with, I think. And they won. It was clear that of all law enforcement officers that I've ever had the pleasure of dealing with, they won that contest by far. So yeah, luckily they did not take me to the ground. There was no wall. We were literally in the middle of nowhere. So they didn't have anything to really throw me against. But I bet they would have, if there would have been something nearby. So in the end, because I was live streaming, it was live streaming that saved me that day, like literally saved me. Because they knew I was live streaming, and they had people in high places watching my live streaming. And as it was happening, and then they knew that others were live streaming. And because of the live streaming, I guess their telephones at the jail started blowing up. And people are calling up the hook saying that they're coming down because it is illegal and unconstitutional what they're doing to constitutional attorney Katherine Henry. And people were ticked. And so, you know, then all of a sudden they decided they're just going to write me, you know, so I was arrested. If you are physically taken into custody and not allowed to leave, that is arrest. Right. I was arrested. Well, they started telling people that I was never arrested and I was just given a warning and let go. No, I was arrested. I was given charges, and I was actually allowed to leave, but under direct and impending threat of further action by those law enforcement officers. If not only I, but if we did, all of us did not leave immediately, which, oh my gosh, you know, at that point, several of the people there lived in that township, let alone that county, and had even more right to be there. That's their public library. That is their township hall. That is, you know, their community. But anyway, and so it went from there. I was charged with supposedly trespassing criminally on publicly owned property open to the general public during those very open business hours. And that case went on for...
Hold that thought. I want to jump in a couple of things. So you are handcuffed, hands behind the back. You are being physically handled in a not friendly way. You probably wind up meeting the side of the car a few times as you're trying to be pushed and pulled into the car. Now, at the moment, right before this happens, have they read you your rights?
Never once read my rights.
Okay, never read your rights. They're trying to get you into the car. Did they ever get you into the car?
Yes.
Okay. Place, I'm taking notes. Place gently into the car. Good, you laughed. And then apparently, because this whole event is being live streamed, which means your words can be backed up by video. It's not hearsay. People are now calling the jail, and the jail's calling somebody else, and finally calls get into the officers, and I use the term very loosely, who are doing what they're doing. And you going through all of that is not considered being arrested.
Apparently, they decided that it was not considered being arrested, which is really funny because, you know, now that I think about it, there was never a warrant for my arrest. There was never, an option for me to turn myself in or, whatnot in that sense. But yet I actually was never ever legally served with a criminal complaint. What I was given that day was a half-assed, poorly filled out, mostly not filled out at all, illegally modified later before given to the court, citation that attempted to cite me for a civil infraction, not a criminal misdemeanor, a civil infraction of trespass under MCL 750.552, which in Michigan is the criminal statute for trespass. So anyway, just kind of,
Okay.
some thoughts.
So so somewhere after being gently placed in the car, again, I like all the specifics. Were the doors shut?
When they finally got me in there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we've got handcuffs. We got total physical handling. We got you stuffed into a car. We got the door shut. This does not amount to an arrest. Well, once again, I'm picky with words. So I'm trying to understand what arrested means.
And that's a great conversation. I just can't help myself again, Alan. I'm sorry. Now that Pam and others taught me how to actually see the commenting while we're doing this show, Now, of course, I have both windows open. So
good.
Dubious Maximus has 8 feet. I think that's what it is. 8 feet in a public space. If I think that's supposed to be if in a public place, they do not require a warrant for arrest. I really hope that's their version of sarcasm or something, because clearly we cannot have unreasonable searches and seizures as guaranteed by the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Likewise, in the related provisions of the Michigan Constitution, which is where I was at the time. So no, just because you're in a public place does not mean that they can arrest you without a warrant. That is the biggest load of garbage in the world. So when I see these, and somebody said here, she was arrested. Her rights didn't need to be read. I'm assuming that's also sarcasm, because yes, if you are arrested, you need to be read your rights.
Okay. I'm a long ago student of cop shows, for lack of a better term. Okay. And they get the cuffs on, and then they do the Miranda thing. And that is not like some Caribbean dance, doing the Miranda. They read them their rights, usually before you get them in the car. Now, maybe this is just showtime, or maybe this is representing what's really happening in the real world. Is that what is typically happening? You have the person, suspect, they're cuffed, so they're under control. They're going to be introduced to the back seat of a car. But before you do, you read them your rights. So they know up front, you don't have to say anything and you get counsel. Isn't that the way it normally goes? Or is that the way it's supposed to be?
Yeah, as far as normative versus descriptive, what's actually happening and, what we want it to be or what it should be, those are generally two different things, even in this day and age. And it's really sad. I've actually served as a public defender representing people with these very kinds of charges in 2 different states. And I could tell you that, yeah, you're supposed to be read your rights so that you don't have to answer questions. You have the right to an attorney. All kinds of things because, when you're allowed to have your person physically constricted and, confined or transported to another location. And especially if this has never happened to you, you're going to be fearful. You're going to be, go into fight or flight mode. And you're not going to know what to do. So, I mean, even it's because they were doing it illegally. That was the reason that I was fearful. But anyway, and with such callous disregard for decency, let alone the Constitution. I could tell you, though, that my case was not normal because for many reasons. But there's not a whole lot of times that you'll have a case where the person is being arrested, they're in custody, they're being told they're being taken to the jail, that their kid is being taken away from them and their car is being towed illegally and all that other fun stuff. There's not a whole lot of times that that's happening. They've already been violently arrested. They're already in handcuffs. They're already sitting in the back of a vehicle. And, well, of course, I just have to say one of the funny parts to me is when the officer is calling on dispatch and he's been feverishly looking on his computer screen, which I could see from the back seat. And he's opening the passenger side front window and he's calling to the other deputies and he's, talking to dispatch and he's like, I just need that election day trespass statute. And I'm like, well, it depends on, I try to be quiet, but eventually I pipe up because I'm like super helpful, right? So I said, well, if you're talking about general election day laws, those are in Michigan, it'd be MCL 168.931K would have been the most relevant statute on point, which said it would be a misdemeanor if we had been within 100 feet of the door of the polling precinct, but we were 229 feet away and nobody's even saying we're too close. So if you're talking about trespass, if you're really just trying to get me for trespass, there is no, and listen, especially those in Michigan, hear me on this with primary elections coming up on Tuesday, there is no trespass specific to elections. Instead, it would just be criminal trespass and the main statute on point there, which I told them at the time, I said, well, I know it's in chapter 750. If you could hand me my phone for a minute, I would be able to look it up for you and I can get it to you right away. But I know it's in chapter 750 if that helps. And of course it's 750.552, which I now know after dealing with this case for over 20 months. So no joke, I literally said those things to him. And as he's like trying to figure out what statute he could charge me with, that's the election day trespass statute. It's kind of funny how they try to make up laws that don't exist.
Well, the thing is, and we're both being sarcastic and whatever at the same time. It's like, okay, buddy, you just put this woman through physical hell in front of her 6-year-old, and you don't know why specifically, legally. You don't know why you did it? Somebody told you to bark and you barked and that was it? Somebody told you go grab this woman and we'll figure out later what she's violated? This is ridiculous. And again, not being an attorney myself, but I'm going to say it anyway. This appears to be criminal.
Oh, it is criminal. Yeah. And, I'm sorry. I really should not have been shown where these comments are because it's horrible. But I'm a little confused why there's somebody on here who's commenting with the name Johnny Blades and has an American flag, because that generally is the symbol of freedom and, the love of country and the Constitution. And so anyway, there's a lot of comments that I've been seeing. And at first I thought, oh, no, I must be, that he must be sarcasm, it must be sarcasm or whatever. But he was saying that I wasn't actually arrested. That's just stupid and incorrect. And then he's saying you can be cuffed without being arrested. Actually, that's also very stupid and incorrect. If you are seized, if your body is not free to move, it could be just for a few minutes, it could be days and months, you are arrested. Okay, that's literally, I haven't read the Webster's definition in several years on that point, but I can guarantee you it's going to agree with me on that.
Let me interrupt for a second. Okay, if you are, let's say you wind up being surrounded, you're surrounded by 3 police officers, just as an example. Okay, nothing's happened yet. No physical contact. Physical contact is initiated by the police officers. Your hands are put behind your back, maybe not very gently. You are cuffed. You are placed into a vehicle and the doors are shut. The car doors are shut. You're in custody. You are not free to move. You are not free to leave. You have been deliberately, this isn't an accident. You have been deliberately handcuffed and restrained. Okay, this isn't a party game. You've been arrested. You're in custody. And you are not free to move unless they let you out. So if somebody wants to get picky on a word, okay, get picky on a word. But this sounds to me like you've been arrested. You are in custody. And you are being held against your will.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned because actually there's multiple people commenting on this point. We have somebody with a name I can't even quite figure out what they're trying to be. But anyway, saying, basically getting to the point, well, was she detained or was she arrested? Same thing. You have rights, okay? And was she removed from the property or subdued on it? Again, it's still an arrest, regardless of which that is. The next person, this is the dubious maximus. For example, if police say you must evacuate or leave the proximity of an area, they do not require a warrant if you do not comply. Well, okay, that might be descriptive, like that's the way it's generally happening, but that's illegal and unconstitutional. They don't get to make the rules up. They don't get to decide they're going to tell somebody they just have to leave an area. They actually have to have a law that backs them up on that. And if they don't, then they should be the ones going to jail. And guess what? Oh, I haven't even started with the bozos in my case. But these are points that we can't, Alan, this Johnny Blades person, she wasn't taken to jail. She wasn't taken to jail, ... She wasn't arrested. So no need for Miranda. Guys, what, hello? I don't think any of you actually care about the Constitution. Have you read it? Do you understand that liberty, freedom, they're things that are given to us by God, not the government. And like Alan clarified earlier, they're not given in the Constitution. As I said, they're constitutionally protected liberties. The government doesn't start with this, inherent source of authority and power and the ability to do it whatever the hell they want to, whenever they want to whomever they want to. No, it's backwards. No, we as individuals, as citizens, as we the people, we have the ultimate control and authority. We have the ultimate sovereignty here. We are bestowed rights. Rights are given to us by God. They are given to us by our Creator. They are protected in the Constitution. And no government ever has rights. That was a whole nother episode or two that Alan and I talked about, a couple months ago. But the government never has rights. They are bestowed or borrowing. They're given delegated powers that we, the people, have delegated certain powers to certain levels or branches of government, but we, the people, retain all other powers, and certainly the right to revoke any powers that are being incorrectly used or anything. But guys, all of these excuses and BS reasons of saying that I wasn't arrested, you've lost your damn minds. Even watch Law and Order for a half a season and you'll figure out. Judge Judy will tell you don't know what you're talking about. Come on. Are you United States citizens?
Well,
Because I'm ashamed.
Well, see, I like this because you and I would not go down this path. So now we get to, and I like this. And I'm being serious about it. And that is, okay, this is my opinion. This is my view on all of this. We as people, as citizens, we're citizens. We're not intended to be subjects. We're citizens. And we carry our rights with us, whether we know them or not, because they are creator given, constitutionally acknowledged. The powers, these aren't rights. These are powers that are granted to governments. They're not rights, they're powers. And they're granted, which means they can be taken back. And when what was to me one of the overriding fears of the founders, and why they fought so long and hard, I don't mean physically, verbally, for 4+ months throughout the summer. Why did they fight so hard? Because they were absolutely afraid of creating a governmental monster. They felt comfortable in their 13 individual sovereign, kick your khaki, stay out of my business states. But they knew this group could not work against the rest of the world. And it finally occurred to me, and tell me if you agree or not, and then we'll get back to this. Think about this. Go back to the 1790s or 1780s. And you're one of 13 states. You have the Articles of Confederation, but you know they don't work very well. But the one thing you are absolutely clear on, and this is the way I see it, is that each state and all 13 together are potentially viewed as prey by all the other empires that are active out there. You've got England, you have Spain, maybe Portugal. They had a real serious concern, France too. They have a real serious concern of being preyed upon by these empires. So they decided to do the Constitution. This, to me, is these conversations are showing a lack of understanding of what the Constitution has recognized for individuals. And that if you were detained, I'll use that as in a police officer walks in front of you and, basically wants you to stand there while you have a conversation, or fine, okay, no big deal. But once I'll call it the arrest process begins and is finalized with doors shutting on a car, you've been arrested, period. Okay? Your freedom of movement is gone, and you are not leaving that car, because there's no open the door handle inside a police car in the back seat. You are not getting out. That's an arrest. Won't even get into the fact that what you were doing was not criminal.
Right.
Okay. And this to me is just abuse of power. And some people don't care about abuse of power until it happens to them. And that's not the way we need to be in this country. We need to protect everyone's liberty, freedom, and rights, because you're also protecting yours at the same time. So this to me, you don't have to be read, you don't have to be read your rights. Well, I've never really been around a criminal activity, except watching it on TV and movies. And the Miranda thing comes up pretty fast, because before I slam you into the car, I'm going to read you your rights. So you don't have to answer my questions. And you can wait and ask for an attorney, on and on and on and on. They didn't have this case, and I don't know what level the case of Miranda went up to. Do you know?
The Supreme Court.
Oh, that's it. Okay. So we go to the Supreme Court to find out you have to do this to someone you arrest. Okay. Well, you were not Mirandized. That to me is a problem. And the fact that they eventually let you go shows how wrong they were to begin with. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm super bummed because apparently the chat only, holds so many comments, but there were some real gems from Johnny Blades and a few others on here that I was going to kind of go through next, that kind of touched on, it kind of wrapped up some of those points all in a nice clean bow. But anyway, I think some of the comments were, you don't ever get the right to argue or disagree with a cop. If you do, they can arrest you. That's the dumbest craziness, garbage I've ever heard of in my entire life. So I really hope that's a third grader typing at this point, because if that's an adult or anyone past middle school, one of these people though is saying Moanon, it just doesn't happen that way in the real world. And I don't know exactly which way they're talking about, because there's a lot of cross conversations, but just to Mo, what I'm telling you is this is, and I'm sure, well, with every show that Alan has, or probably on this whole network, I don't know. The whole point is to talk about the way that it's required to work, not just a descriptive versus normative, the way that it is and the way that we want it to be kind of thing. No, this is the way that it literally is required. If we're going to all sit there silently going along with the BS, then it's going to continue and it's going to get worse. So Mo, trust me, you're talking about all these things that you've seen and lived through, and how cops or whomever, it could not just be cops, but others in government are basically, they've done wrong and you've seen people harmed. And I'm not saying all cops are bad, don't get me wrong there, but my job, all of us have this obligation, is to correct the injustices, to stop the BS, to, they're trying to make examples out of us. That's exactly what they were trying to do to me, because at that point I had already been in national media and definitely all over state media, radio and TV and newspapers and you name it, because I had already been the face of freedom, arguing in the Michigan Supreme Court, among other places, against the governor's executive orders and against stores violating your constitutionally protected rights. Yes, I said that a store can violate your constitutionally protected rights. You are, so they knew who I was and they wanted to make an example out of me, only they didn't know who they were dealing with, because I'm not going to just go, oh, you scared me, now I'm going to go cry and go home and sit in a corner and allow you to do whatever you want. No, the more you piss me off, the more you violate my rights. And they continued to do that for over 20 freaking months. 20 months.
Okay, let's do this. Okay. And I think this will help answer some of the chat. Okay. Yes. So let's go to the end. Yeah. And then we'll kind of walk back a little bit. So the end took place on July what? Your last hearing?
July 7th, my husband's birthday.
Okay. So on July 7th, you were back in Michigan and you were in a courtroom. Were you allowed to have family and friends there?
On July 7th, I was actually allowed to have people the public present. Now, not all of the public, only members of the public who were wearing masks.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And the hearing lasted how long?
Actually, I don't even think we were in there for even an hour.
Okay. So the hearing was less than an hour. Can you say who the judge was?
Oh, Judge William Balargian.
Okay. And let me guess, I'm going to go way out on a limb. You were representing yourself.
Yes, I'm the
Okay.
only attorney with real guts in the state of Michigan, but anyway.
Okay.
Yes.
So you represented yourself, and I want to get to the end and then we're going to walk backwards. But given all of this that happened, what I will call the arrest, the charges, you've been at this for 20 months through the legal system. They've delayed, and I want you to walk us back. Now, were you plaintiff or defendant?
Well, it was supposedly the people of the state of Michigan suing
Against you.
Katherine Henry. Yes.
Okay. So you're defendant.
Yes.
Okay. And you're defending yourself.
Yes.
And the plaintiff is the state of Michigan. Okay. Because you've offended Michigan.
Yeah. It was under color of law that they try to claim that it's the people of the state of Michigan. But anyway,
Right.
we'll just go with that. Yeah.
So plaintiff is the state of Michigan, the people of Michigan, and represented by the prosecutor for the county. You've got the judge, and you are the defendant and attorney for the defendant. After less than an hour in the courtroom, what happened?
You would think that's a very easy question to answer, but basically, in the end, the line of questioning was pretty sketchy at best on how we got there, and I really wasn't, given the opportunity to present my emotions. I had 6 in front of the judge that day, and the prosecutor had 1. But the judge just kind of took it away and had some interesting line of questioning for the prosecutor. And I think I spoke up and commented maybe a couple times. But the judge ended up, well, let's pause. What we didn't tell people is that I was charged with criminal trespass on November 3rd, 2020. And it wasn't until the night before my second jury trial date, when I had gone back up to Michigan in July of 2021, and I was there prepping for trial. The night before that trial, the prosecutor's office decided they wanted to add a charge of disturbing the peace. And I was never actually legally served with that one either. The prosecutor's office literally never sent me anything about that. Isn't that great? It was an attachment in an email that came from court staff. That's not legal service. But anyway, so they added that misdemeanor charge to me. So fast forward to the motion on my husband's birthday, which is 4 days after my birthday, July 3rd. His is July 7th. So there we are in Michigan again this July 2022. And the judge first wants to talk about and this is the second time I have filed a motion to dismiss the trespassing charge. The first time I filed it in January 2021. And get this, the judge at the time, and I'm sure this Johnny guy Johnny Blades, who.
All right, keep going.
Used to think he knows the law. But anyway, he's probably going to agree with this. The same judge then ruled that I had no right as a defendant facing possible jail time to challenge any issues of illegality or unconstitutionality in the charges or the process or anything. That my only rights, he said, were vested in the fact that I had the right to a full jury trial, whatever that means to him. The sad thing is, the circuit court judge that I appealed that decision to apparently also agreed with him, which is astonishing. And the gutless Court of Appeals judges that got assigned my appeal when I, appealed to the Court of Appeals in Michigan, decided that it wasn't They didn't decide on the merits of the case, but clearly they're nincompoops because they didn't think that if I'm being denied any of those rights, let alone all of them, that I should maybe have the Court of Appeals look at the case and make some decisions, put the big boy pants on. So at any rate, the judge finally this time, and now get this, okay, I will have to say, I started filing a ton of motions at the end. I filed them in May of this year. Was supposed to be heard in June. The judge moved them to July because he wanted to give the prosecutor enough time to come up with some responses. That's literally what he was saying. So prosecutors still didn't have very good responses. But what one of the motions I filed was a motion for declaratory relief, asking the court to formally recognize that I had the right to file a motion to dismiss. I've never in a million years thought I would ever have to do that, but I did file that motion and it was a hands down win. And if he was going to say no, at least he was going to have to say no and look like an idiot on the record. But at any rate, he skipped over that motion and he wanted to jump right on into my motion to dismiss on the trespassing case. And I said, well, Your Honor, I was trying to explain, I think we should start with this one because I think, it's important that we go over that I want clarification on that point. I forget how he worded it, and it was on video and we, whatever, we can go there at some point if people are really disagreeing with my recollection here. But at any rate, the judge literally said, no, you filed a motion because the prosecution was claiming that I had already brought this issue up and that the court had previously disagreed with my reasoning and ruled against me. And I said, so right off the bat, I'm saying, well, that's what they claim in their answer, but that's not what happened. I was literally denied my motion because the court, same judge, said I did not have the right to file a motion to dismiss. And the judge said, well, actually, Katherine, your motion was denied because, I denied it and, kind of went in circles. And I
wait a minute. Your motion was denied because he denied it.
Yeah, but he was, and I think he tried to say something about that he was hinting that he was denying it based on the merits. And so I said, actually, Your Honor, because it's all about making a good record for the appeal, right? I said, actually, Your Honor, you denied my motion because you said I had no right to bring that motion in the first place. We didn't talk about the merits of the case. We didn't talk about the merits of what I filed in the motion. And he just went, oh. And then I was like, what do I say now? So I just said to him, well, Your Honor, if it seems that we're all on the same page now, that I do have the right to file a motion to dismiss, I can certainly not waste any more of this court's time and I can jump right on into the next motion. So that's what I did. And so anyway, we get to the motion to dismiss the trespassing charge. And that's where most of the discussion was back and forth. And there were some points where the judge actually said things that seemed to indicate he understood the Constitution. But then he ended up resting the decision based on the fact that my vehicle wasn't parked on the pavement of the parking lot. That has no bearing on anything whatsoever. But I was sick and tired of the case and there's no convincing those who want to be deceived. So I wasn't even going to go there. I was like, whatever, I'll just be quiet on that point. And so he dismissed the trespassing charge and then he goes to my motion to dismiss the disturbing the peace charge and, gets the prosecution to admit that the same act that they claim is the basis for the trespassing charge is literally the same act that they claim is the basis for the disturbing the peace charge. But we already covered the fact that I'm protected by the U.S. Constitution to exercise those liberties. Of course, the court wouldn't say God-given liberties, but I do. So that led to both charges being dismissed. And, of course, the court wanted to gloss over all the rest of my motions, one of which was a declaration of basically the fact that I wanted declaratory relief that I did have the right to ADA accommodations according to state and federal law. of course, we had to breeze over that one. And a couple of other important things. I had the right to public hearings. And I had the right to assistance of counsel, because those who haven't heard the story, yes, February 4th, 2021, I was actually denied assistance of counsel. I had brought another attorney with me, and that attorney was told he had to leave the courtroom because no other members of the public were allowed in there, because the judge didn't want any witnesses, even though the attorney was clearly identified as someone who was there to assist me as counsel. I was denied my counsel. So, because yes, even attorneys are allowed to have their own counsel. At any rate, there were many other issues before the court, and I think this was the way out for him. Although I did actually step up and say, when he was trying to just say, there are no more, none of your motions are to be heard. And I said, well, Your Honor, there is that issue of the redaction, because the prosecution's office has been illegally filing document after document with my personal protected identifying information on there. And they can't do that. So anyway, the judge agreed that he was going to have to basically order the redaction of my personal identifying information. But that, in a nutshell, is how things ended on July 7th, just 3 weeks ago, basically. And of course, that is honestly just the start of that journey, because it's going to take a team of people praying. It's going to take a team of people willing to donate money towards filing fees and costs. It's going to take a team of people willing to brainstorm and work on the logistics and everything. But every single sheriff's deputy, township clerk, all 5 of the prosecuting attorneys that I know touched my file in that office, 2 district court judges, at least 1 circuit court judge, at least 1, if not 2, Michigan Court of Appeals judges, you name it. They are all going to be held personally responsible for this constitutional catastrophe, because they wanted to make an example out of me, someone who did not violate the law in any way, and proved them wrong many, many times on that point. And then they kept going. They just couldn't admit they were wrong. They couldn't just take the loss and move on. They had to keep making it worse. Well, if they're going to go that hardcore after me, someone who clearly knows her rights, they are doing that day in and day out to the average Joe. And they are also then serving as examples to other prosecutors and sheriff's deputies and whomever all across the state and all across the country, that this kind of crap is okay, which is what we go back to what Mo was talking about in the comments. This is just, we see bad crap happening to people all the time, that it's not justified. And you're right, Mo. So what are we going to do about it? We're going to stop them by challenging them at the polls, making sure there's another prosecutor to challenge that prosecutor in the next election, and this judge and the sheriff, and you name it. We're going to do whatever we can to go after them. No bonds is not the answer, but a lawsuit where these individuals will be held individually and personally responsible for each of their egregious actions. And we're going to make them the example, because this kind of crap, it can't and it shouldn't happen to somebody like me, but it can't and it shouldn't happen to any one of you, even you constitutional bozos is the nice way I'm going to say it, that seem to think an arrest is only in certain circumstances and you're not allowed to argue with the police and blah, blah, blah. Even you have the right, the same rights that God gave me. He gave them to you, and the Constitution is there to protect those rights. And so all these government officials, they don't have the right to do this to you. So that's why we're going to have to take the bull by the horns and do something to actually affect change here.
So the upshot, thank you for all that, Catherine. So the upshot is all charges against you were dismissed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that means the state of Michigan, the good people of Michigan, no longer have any legal action against you.
That is correct.
Okay. So typically, again, help me out because I'm slow. Help me out that typically when a case gets dismissed, it's dismissed because there was something wrong with it. It didn't go to trial. A jury didn't hear the case. It didn't get that far. It took you 20 months or so.
Over 20 months, yes.
Over 20 months to finally put everything in place with all the paperwork you had to file, and to finally get the judge to just say, go away. That would tell me that the case as presented to the court, the case as, demonstrated by the prosecutor, had no legs. It couldn't stand on its own. Is that kind of it?
He found that the case was legally insufficient, that there was no such thing that they could arrest me for, that he made the determination finally that the clerk and the deputies had no legal right to ask me to leave the property. So when a cop, and that was one of the other things Johnny was saying, I think it was Johnny saying, well, if they tell you you got to leave, then you got to leave. No, they actually have to have legal authority, constitutional authority to tell you to leave before your obligation to leave exists.
That's what I think is just one of the things that's so important in this case, is that, okay, for most people, they want to be respectful of law enforcement. Okay?
Yes.
I get that. I totally get it. And if you're told to leave a place, okay, I get that part. Now, if they say you might want to leave because we think the building is about to blow up, God forbid, okay, thank you, I got it. If you're being told to leave because, let's say, you were doing something that somebody in power doesn't like, that kind of brings up redress your government for grievances. Well, okay, I'm not in the town clerk's office. I'm outside. I'm in the public domain. I'm not disturbing foot traffic on a sidewalk. I'm not disturbing vehicular traffic in a street, which means I'm where I get to do what I get to do. To me, one of the key elements of this case, which I really don't like, is that law enforcement didn't care. They wanted to have their way regardless. And this, to me, is what we, the people, individually and together, must fight against. Because, okay, despite your stature as an attorney and constitutional educated, if somebody decides to go do something, and they actually do the research to make sure they're not within 100 feet, and they're just trying to have a conversation, and you get brutalized, arrested, handcuffed, placed into a vehicle, doors shut, well, that to me is an arrest. Because you did not do anything legally wrong.
Correct.
You did piss somebody off, but that is not legally, criminally, or civilly a charge. Pissing people off is not a crime, unless, of course, there's a special statute in Michigan that if you piss off the town clerk, you've done something illegal.
That wouldn't be constitutional, but no, there is no such statute on the books.
Okay, so every time we see, it's one of those things where I don't have to worry because it happened, in another city. I don't have to worry because it didn't happen in the county. I don't have to worry because it didn't happen in my neighborhood. Well, eventually, if this keeps coming, we're all going to hear the knock. And what I find interesting, which, I'm slowly coming to understand, is I'm very fortunate to be here. I'm very fortunate the Constitution is written. It's not being followed, but it's there. And this good fortune comes with duty to protect and defend. And the one thing that can never, ever protect and defend itself is our liberties, our freedoms, and our rights. They're here, but they can't take care of themselves. They need us. And when we take care of individual liberties and freedoms and rights, you're actually helping take care of everyone else out there. And
it's funny that you mentioned that, because in terms of thinking of why to do this, there's a couple of comments that have come on here. One is somebody saying, file suit and taking them to trial won't end in our favor because our peers are indoctrinated to believe police forces have authority over us. And this person recognizes that's not how it works, but they're saying, well, they just won't win because too many people are stupid, basically, and brainwashed. And the thing is, I don't take look at David and Goliath or any of those other examples, just because it looks like it's going to be really close to impossible to make it happen. I'm still a firm believer that with God, all things are possible. And where there's a will, there's a way. And trust me, God gave me a strong will, and there will be a way for these crooks to be held responsible. So, trust me, it's going to be a lot of convincing or educating the jurors on what the Constitution is and where our rights come from. And, the defense, because the defense will be them in this case, or the judge, they might try to stop me on that point, but guess what? It is 100% relevant to give them that history lesson, that constitutional lesson, because number one, the petition, the reason why they were there that day, it was all about government overreach and tyranny and stopping all this BS and craziness, and putting some actual teeth into when the government does wrong. And this would be a clear example of why that petition would have, needed to go through. You have, anyway, there's a million and one reasons why I would be able to actually talk about those things and educate the jury on that point. But then somebody else, and this is Mo, Mo says she is an attorney, but for you and I, this would cost thousands of dollars to hire an attorney. And let me be straightforward about this, guys. I don't know if Lori, who's my superpower, is in the background, if she's put any links on there, and it just jumped on me. So I was trying to look at people's comments, and dang, it kind of, they're gone. But anyway, I've had to spend at this point, I don't even know the dollar amount, but it's over $5,000, at least that's what Lori said. And I must have told her the number because I'm the one that does the calculations. But anyway, of literally out-of-pocket expenses on multiple interlocutory appeals, meaning I'm appealing decisions of a court that are not final, and I'm trying to get a higher court to smack some sense into them before I have to go all the way through the court process. I've had thousands of dollars of transcript fees, of getting copies of this DVD of supposedly public hearings, and my motion fees at the circuit court and court of appeals, and you name it, thousands of dollars. Not to mention, you get gas, $5 a gallon, $5.29 a gallon, and I'm having to drive all the way up to Michigan for hearings, multiple occasions, because the judge moved the trial 8 times. Well, there's this little thing in the Constitution called the right to a speedy trial. And trust me, moving it 8 times without even a hearing on it. I had there was no notice and opportunity to be heard on the fact that the court was going to move it, oftentimes 3 or more months down the road. And so at any rate, guys, just because that's the way it's always happened, just because the good guy has not won before, does not mean that's a reason to stop now. But at any rate, it has been expensive, even for me. And I've been willing to have other attorneys help me, but they have other things coming up, but one got sick and the other one, lost some staff people, and another had some other, like professional stuff going on, and another one got too busy, and whatever, right? I was left with it by myself after trying, I could think of at least 6 different attorneys that I had contact with, that I was like, hey, you want to come on board and help me? So it wasn't about ego for me. I was more than willing to have somebody else get all the credit for winning on this one, and nothing. So trust me, I know what it's like to feel alone. I know what it's like to have to pay expenses. And by the way, all of the work that I do, when I'm filing amicus briefs, when I'm providing businesses with real life, real time information on whether a law enforcement officer or a Department of Health and Human Services employee can do this or do that, when I'm doing educational videos, when I'm putting out all kinds of information, when I'm explaining Supreme Court decisions, every single thing I'm doing is for free. I live on donations. And by the way, my student loans keep rolling on in because I graduated from law school so long ago that all those special COVID loan forgiveness crap programs don't apply to me. And that's for federal loans, because my private loans have been long paid off. Anyway, so I'm not made of money. I mean, I'm wearing a t-shirt from Old Navy from 10 years ago, guys. Come on. And I got mascara from the Dollar Tree. So I'm just telling you, no joke, that's what I'm wearing. So I'm telling you guys, it is expensive for me, and it's frustrating, and it's time consuming, and it's been like all encompassing and stressful. But if I don't fight this fight, who will? So at any rate, and somebody else said something about, well, you've heard what she's done, or, would you want to hire her as an attorney? And I don't know if they were being, serious, or if they were being sarcastic or anything like that. But I wanted to pull up another comment. Dang, where'd it go? I'm clicking on all the wrong buttons here.
All right, one more, and then I'm going to wrap.
Yes, well, this one I actually copied and pasted in case it went away. Oh, okay. Just ignore me for those
Okay.
of you who are, no, you don't ignore me. I'm just typing it in here so I could see it, because I had copied it and now I'm having to paste it somewhere. Okay. So somebody in the chat, which I can't see anymore, said if she was let out of, okay, so this, I just have to give credit to this person. Okay. This is Own We Cuff. Okay, that's the commenter here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead and just hit send. So you guys can, within the broadcasting segment, you can see what this comment was. So this Johnny person, and I think one other person have been arguing that I haven't been arrested. I wasn't arrested for this, blah, 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 blah. And the comments have actually been quite entertaining back and forth. But this person says, okay, so what about if she was let out of prison after serving a sentence? Does that mean she wasn't arrested then too? Anyway, I just couldn't help myself. I had that one.
All right. Well, and you'll get a moment to promote yourself again. My take on this is that we all have a duty to become aware and hold precious what we have. Generation after generation has strayed away from really understanding the Constitution, the great gift that we had. It's time we get back in the saddle and get the job done. You spent thousands of dollars. I can only imagine hundreds of hours in what you've done. And the upshot, after not getting the speedy trial, getting it shifted month after month after month, is that they just dismissed it. Okay, that speaks to the very core of what the prosecution's case was, at least the way I see it. And for me, I take this as a great lesson. For everyone listening, this is our duty to protect and defend what was given to us, what we have today, and what we are obligated to pass on. Liberty, freedom, rights. You want to talk about an unlikable, unreasonable action? It's called 1776. One of the great things is that Britain was so greedy that it was fighting elsewhere in the hemisphere, and they didn't bring everybody into the colonies. And the states, colonies formerly became states in 1776, they were able to fight long enough, hard enough, inflict enough damage to have Britain quit. And what were they fighting for? Exactly what Catherine's fighting for. Not being oppressed by government at any level. So thank you, Katherine, for sharing. Congratulations on the victory. We now know that speedy trial has a new definition. Love that. And we're all potentially one step away from having something like this happen because, oh, somebody called an authority and they said you did X. Okay, that's not going to play out well because you have people being educated in law enforcement to do as they're told, not understand what they're being told. And that was the problem to me with those sheriff deputies. Again, thank you so much for being on For the Republic, for sharing your story. I think it's very important to get it out. Please promote yourself.
Yes. Well, apparently I'm the attorney that law firms across the country would disagree with because one last thing, despite Johnny Blades mentioning that on a Google search, police have the right to detain on site without arrest if probable cause exists. He says law firms agree. Well, I don't give a crap what some idiot attorneys who don't know anything about the law or the Constitution agree about. It's still not constitutional. So yes, promoting me, I am the one who is willing to stand alone and do what's right. I'm constitutional attorney Katherine Henry. You can find me on my website, restorefreedomkh.com, restorefreedom, K as in Catherine, H as in Henry.com. I am in the middle of reworking that website. It's a lot more beautiful than it was before. There's already more content in many ways than there was before, but I have a long way to go because I'm having to figure out how to do all the coding and fun stuff myself, but it is getting there. Please tune in on Tuesdays at noon Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, Facebook, or some of our other social media platforms to have a conversation live with me about the Constitution, about constitutional amendments, petitions, candidates, you name it. We go over Supreme Court decisions and everything in between. And I do tons of other offerings and try to get to the bottom line of making sure that the average American can and does know how to fight back against the government overreach and ridiculousness, and that we all know the Constitution and what's in it. And I won't stop until we do. And maybe a few of you would not want to hire me after seeing that I was willing to be arrested to defend the Constitution. By the way, I was the only person in U.S. history to be arrested and then elected on the same day because, yes, I was then elected to public office myself that day. But I am an attorney who's willing to be arrested to defend the Constitution, and I always will be. And if that's not an attorney that you want in your corner, that's totally understandable, I suppose. But good luck.
So, Katherine, thank you so much. I'm about to wrap up, but to me, the message is very clear. We all need to know the rules of the game so we can all play it properly. I mean, if you're playing football, are you expected to know the rules of the game? I think so. And don't you expect the referees to know the rules of the game? I think
certainly
so.
When my kids are playing those sports, those referees damn well better know the rules of the game. But
anyway, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. I've learned so much. Glad you were able to promote yourself. I see the ladies are here, so I'm going to do my regular closing because Kath requires it. Alan Myers here. This has been another episode of For the Republic. To all you good people out there, you lovers and defenders of liberty, freedom, rights, individuality, quality of opportunity for all. To all you patriots, oh yeah, you know who you are. Till next time, may you be and stay safe and well. Patriot out. Thank you, Catherine, so much. Appreciate it. Ladies, you're there.
Alan, I have one thing to say. Catherine for president. Isn't that right?
Chris, you're muted. You're muted, dear.
I
I'd vote for her. I would.
would. I'm
Well, can I be VP?
You can be.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Actually,
All right.
That'd be a good job for both of you, actually. And
The,
congrats, Catherine. And thank you for working so hard for to uphold our Constitution.
That's right.
A lot more people appreciate that than you realize.
Well, I definitely like to hear the feedback because, you know, I know God has us each on our own paths and we each are supposed to do something. And there's often times that I'm feeling like, man, maybe I'm not going down the right path. So knowing that, you know, people are learning more about the Constitution or just getting the courage to fight back or whatever the case may be, and that I'm having an impact in that regard, that helps me to know, okay, I think maybe I am on that right track. So.
Can I say something to that effect?
Yes, please.
Okay. I want you to go back a few years. I want you to go back to a battlefield where a giant was standing. Literally a giant. And a young shepherd boy went out to challenge him while all the men stood behind him. Do you think David checked his emails? Do you think he checked his Twitter to see if he had any support? Or did David in that moment in time say, this is what I can do, this is what must be done, and I will engage? So to me, true or not, it is a great metaphor for all of us. When you know that something has to be done, even if it comes at and most things that are really important come at personal risk. Okay. This is not like, oh, should I go down this aisle in the grocery store or this aisle? No, this comes at heavy risk. It could be physical. It could be emotional. It could be personal. Oh, you're going to do this? I'm not talking to you anymore. Well, when you know in your heart, in your soul, in your gut that this has to be done, you can do it, therefore you must do it. I think about what I'm working on, and I've been canceled by a lot of folks in one way or another. I go, okay, well, I believe in individuality, go right ahead. That's not going to stop me.
And what's in it. And I won't stop until we do. And maybe a few of you would not want to hire me after seeing that I was willing to be arrested to defend the Constitution. By the way, I was the only person in U.S. history to be arrested and then elected on the same day because, yes, I was then elected to public office myself that day. But I am an attorney who's willing to be arrested to defend the Constitution, and I always will be. And if that's not an attorney that you want in your corner, that's totally understandable, I suppose. But good luck.
So, Catherine, thank you so much. I'm about to wrap up, but to me, the message is very clear. We all need to know the rules of the game so we can all play it properly. I mean, if you're playing football, are you expected to know the rules of the game? I think so. And don't you expect the referees to know the rules of the game? I think
certainly when my kids are playing those sports, those referees damn well better know the rules of the game. But
anyway, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. I've learned so much. Glad you were able to promote yourself. I see the ladies are here, so I'm going to do my regular closing because Kath requires it. Alan Myers here. This has been another episode of For the Republic. To all you good people out there, you lovers and defenders of liberty, freedom, rights, individuality, quality of opportunity for all. To all you patriots, oh yeah, you know who you are. Till next time, may you be and stay safe and well. Patriot out. Thank you, Catherine, so much. Appreciate it. Ladies, you're there.
Alan, I have one thing to say. Catherine for president. Isn't that right?
Chris, you're muted. You're muted, dear.
I'd vote for her. I would.
I would.
Well, can I be VP?
You can be.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Actually,
All right.
that'd be a good job for both of you, actually. And
Yeah.
congrats, Catherine. And thank you for working so hard to uphold our Constitution.
That's right.
A lot more people appreciate that than you realize.
Well, I definitely like to hear the feedback because, I know God has us each on our own paths and we each are supposed to do something. And there's often times that I'm feeling like, man, maybe I'm not going down the right path. So knowing that, people are learning more about the Constitution or just getting the courage to fight back or whatever the case may be, and that I'm having an impact in that regard, that helps me to know, okay, I think maybe I am on that right track. So.
Can I say something to that effect?
Yes, please.
Okay. I want you to go back a few years. I want you to go back to a battlefield where a giant was standing. Literally a giant. And a young shepherd boy went out to challenge him while all the men stood behind him. Do you think David checked his emails? Do you think he checked his Twitter to see if he had any support? Or did David, in that moment in time, say, this is what I can do, this is what must be done, and I will engage? So to me, true or not, it is a great metaphor for all of us. When you know that something has to be done, even if it comes and most things that are really important come at personal risk. Okay. This is not like, oh, should I go down this aisle in the grocery store or this aisle? No, this comes at heavy risk. It could be physical. It could be emotional. It could be personal. Oh, you're going to do this? I'm not talking to you anymore. Well, when you know in your heart, in your soul, in your gut that this has to be done, you can do it, therefore you must do it. I think about what I'm working on and I've been canceled by a lot of folks in one way or another. I go, okay, well, I believe in individuality, go right ahead. That's not going to stop me. If difficulty stops me, then I'm not really in the game. If the only way to, oh yeah, I'll play football as long as nobody tries to tackle me. No, that ain't the game. But in the process of standing up, like you do, Catherine, and I so appreciate it. As I said, there's two ways to lead. There's only two ways to lead. One is by edict, the other is by example. And you are absolutely leading by example. So thank you very much.
That's true.
Didn't mean to hog your show, ladies.
Oh, you're good.
You're
All right.
fine.
Agree with everything.
That's right.
Oh, no, you're crazy too?
Yeah, well, I was an artist and I was a conservative artist at John Bircher at art school. What do you think? Do you think I lost some friends or got into it with people? I literally had a 45-minute scream fest with one of my art teachers.
Really?
Yes, over the decay of this is 20-some years ago, over the decay of society and the direct interaction with artwork as it progressed, as the decay progressed.
Yeah.
And she liked abstract garbage. And I said, that's a communist art. And I explained to her and we're screaming. Everybody in the room was like,
Oh, is that the Hunter Biden paintings and art history?
yeah, exactly. But no, she finally at the end of it, we were just really screaming at each other. And at the end of it, she goes, you made me think about stuff I never thought about before. And she goes, there definitely is a decay in this is a long time ago before it got really bad even. There is a decay in our society. There's no mistaking it. And she said, Yes, because I told her, I said, literally take a monkey, tie a paintbrush to his tail, dip it in paint, turn his butt to the canvas. He'll slap something out. You will not be able to tell if that's art or a monkey tail. And she didn't disagree. It was true. So, yeah.
Well, okay. For somebody who is absolutely a deep lover of art and art history, the proper term is butt art. Okay, that's butt art.
I've got a meme for that tonight, by the way.
Yes. So, I mean, the highest form,
Art, huh?
when you can use your backside to get something done, you're definitely at the highest level.
Thinking outside the box.
Whatever.
Multitasking.
There you go. You can shake it and do other wash dishes and shake it.
Well, see, right now you're talking about superpower. If you can do that kind of artwork and dishes at the same time, oh, fabulous.
Do you remember?
Moms are full of all the kind of multitasking superpowers.
Yeah,
Usually not painting with their butts, but everything else we have to multitask.
Yeah.
Remember Farrah Fawcett years ago when she was trying to regain some kind of fame? She was starting to get older. I remember probably the last thing I ever saw about her. She had a big canvas on the floor and she threw paint on herself, I guess, and then rolled around naked on the canvases and was selling it.
Okay, I don't want the art, but I want the video of how she painted.
You're such a guy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I have no interest in a video of that.
Well, no, of course not. Of course not. But I mean, see, you have to understand, I love art and I'm a heavy art historian. So I want to learn about, okay, lack for lack of a better term, her brush strokes.
Whatever. Get out of here. That's not washing. You got
I
3
had
women here.
such a high regard for you, Alan.
Well, keep it that way because you got to know I'm kidding.
Just keep talking.
Hey, if you can't have fun with celebrities, what's the point?
True.
Yeah.
They are kind of funny.
They are. They're a delight. But, so, what are you ladies talking about today?
This and that. Some weird
Whoa.
things. Memes, as always. Kat's got the memes. And
You got this and that going?
I got that too. And a video. I got a video. I'm bringing a little bit tonight, and I've been busy all day.
Okay.
All day.
I'm glad to hear it because believe it or not, my computer keeps freezing up. Microsoft Edge is not responding. I'm like, no, you can't do this right now.
A lot of people having problems with their computers.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the problem I had with mine today is it worked. So I'm here. Hey, Kath, where's the puppies?
Well, Addie's right here on my lap.
Yay!
She's a camera whore. It's right.
And you're worried about the way I talk? Well, my little cat didn't. My little cat didn't show up.
To hold my dog up because he's a 65-pound lab. So
Well, ask him to stand up.
There you go.
he's also 13 years old. So he's like,
Aw.
Old friend.
That's
cool.
Yeah. So Dicta didn't show up today. Sometimes she doesn't like the screen I got behind me. So.
Mhm.
All right. Well, ladies, Katherine, again, thank you so much. We'll be in touch. I want to share some more information with you, if you don't mind.
oh, I always love more information.
And one day, maybe I might be on your show. Maybe.
Well, I've been saving it for the best episode of the year. So far, we've just kind of been ironing out the kinks. But when we finally got the format down, that's when we need to have you on.
Well, I'm ready anytime. And Chris, I'm glad to see your computer's working.
It is.
And camera. That's
It's
great.
Shocking. I don't know why, but it's working today. I'm good with that. So
Now, are you?
Hazel just said to me?
No.
Hazel said, Kath, your pooch looks just like you.
Okay, I'm going to take that as
haircut. Okay.
I'm going to take that as a compliment. I don't want anybody saying my cat looks like me.
No.
Oh, yeah, but she's definitely got a tail for painting.
Oh, my God.
Big.
I'm going to put this video out in the chat for you too, out in Zoom chat.
Okay.
I'm going to be playing it later. It's something for entertainment. Pam played it earlier. So that's what we'll be playing today. I don't know if, there you go. I don't know if Kath's seen it yet. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw some part of Pam's show, but not all of it.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I'm sure it was funny. I heard him laughing, so maybe that's what.
It was I think salty cracker. I can't remember.
Okay.
Salty bites. I don't know. I've only seen the guy once. I'm not sure. Everybody says, "Oh, he's so funny," but he has a really potty mouth, so I don't generally get it.
Oh, Salty Cracker. Yeah, I heard about him today.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I think that video was him. It was really good. It was a good video. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched enough. It was like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
The art of funny is being enjoyable without being vulgar.
Yes.
Vulgar is easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think vulgar is like saffron. It's to be used very, very sparingly.
Yeah.
Make the point, move on, be observationally funny, and
What's the difference between like Eddie Murphy and the guy that does the well, Murphy was funny when he first came up with the mouth. But then you've got the guy that does the puppets. I can't think of his name. The guy that has the
what is his name?
somebody out in chat will have it. Pink Panther is saying, please tell Catherine that I've tried twice to donate, but it's giving me problems.
Yeah, I was going to ask them if they could email us a screenshot or something, because I'm the one writing I'm the tech department, and
Oh boy, not good.
every time I check it, it seems to be good. So if somebody, if I'd really appreciate it. Any screenshots or anything you could send that can give me a clue about how to fix it.
where would they send the screenshot to?
There's a button at the bottom in the footer of our website that has an email, so it'll pop up and it'll give them the option to email.
Super.
Yeah, because
See, you got it.
Catherine needs shorts to go with that T-shirt now. Come on.
Yep.
Only if she's going to stand up.
Jeff Dunham is the name of the guy, the comedian with the puppets.
Oh, okay.
You ever seen him?
No.
Oh my goodness. I'll have to grab something for you. He does some cute stuff.
Is he the one that has a puppet that looks like Grumpy Biden?
Yes.
Yeah. What is his name, guys? Oh, shoot.
The old man, the old puppet.
The old one.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am off. It's been great to hang with you ladies. Catherine, again, thank you so much for being on the program and sharing. I love the humor, love the sarcasm. Conversation with you without sarcasm wouldn't be worthwhile, because you know I'm being sarcastic. Because sarcasm to me is a great form of observation.
Yeah.
And some people can't take it. They really can't.
Right.
And the word sarcasm, I believe, comes from a word, and it means cutting flesh. So
Interesting.
yeah. So anyway, ladies,
I don't like that.
you all be safe and well.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me hang. Catherine, again, thank you for being on the program.
Yeah.
Have a great night. Be safe and well.
Thanks, you guys. Bye-bye. Have a great week, guys.
Good
Bye.
one.
Yes, and I want to say thank you for letting me stay over in the first 15 minutes of your show as well. And
Awesome.
Kath, it was I appreciated the comments and whatnot you were making in the
I got your back, girl.
I was like, wait a minute, I know who that one is. So thank you. It's a pleasure to see you guys, and
You too.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah.
well, have a great night or day, or what's that?
I said, I'm sure you have so much relief now. It's like you can get on with it. Get on with life, right?
Yep, way too much to do yet. I was hoping to feel a little bit more like I could take a vacation, but no.
Yeah. Well, heck, you live right down there by Daytona Beach. Come on now. That's a
I'm a
vacation.
5-minute walk to the ocean, although my husband says when it's really low tide, it might take 6 or 7 minutes.
Okay. True.
But
Yeah.
that's dad humor for you. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I got my kid laughing in the background too about that, which reminds me, I'm going to have to try to get her ready for bed. So
Oh.
anyway, thank you guys.
Yeah, well, thanks, Catherine. Thank you. Great show, by the way,
Yeah, great
as
show.
always.
Take a deep breath and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
sounds good. And hey, you know, don't ever hesitate. Excuse you. I'm going to pretend like there's not, well, green screen's helping. You can't see her head right here.
Oh, there I saw her.
We just
It's like
did.
it goes- Pretty hair. I love her hair.
Little stinker.
But please don't ever hesitate to have
There she is.
Aw, sweetie.
to have me join or anything. I'd love to. So,
Okay.
you know,
Sounds
Yeah,
awesome.
awesome. All the cool people are wearing purple.
That's right.
Yeah.
well, I've got
Wearing
red and
purple?
blue, so together it makes purple.
Yes, that's true. It's just like a less pinky purpley. It's almost the same color as what I'm wearing.
Pink and gray.
Oh, I like it. It's pretty.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah,
Good night, guys.
Catherine. Bye.
Bye.
Hey,
Oh, she's so
I
cute.
figured out